Good Thursday, everyone. I have a little bit of a cold. I apologize. My voice might be a little scratchy. We are gathered to talk about letting go today, is our topic. I'm looking forward to that. It is Thursday morning here in the U.S. And today is Thursday. We get the State of the Union speech tonight for those who might be politically interested. And if not, there's a couple of good shows on TV on Thursday evening too. So whatever turns your crank. And want to get started with introductions. Shelly Ann, just be yourself and let us know.
Oh, I don't think we have time for all of that today. And hi, everyone, and welcome to Open Conversations. I am Shelly Ann Edwards Barron, and I'm a gratitude guide and habit coach. And just this morning, I was explaining to someone how the gratitude and the habit coaching work together because for some people, implementing gratitude feels like, a hefty dose of ineffective positive psychology. They think of it as just, being thankful, and that's all there is to it. But for me, gratitude is a lot more practical and deeper than that, which is where the habit coaching comes in, where there are lots of systems and practices and experiments and attitudes and so on that build around what you do to accomplish the goals that you set. And I usually work with clients who are 40 and over because something happens to us when we hit 40. It happened to me. And in working it through for myself, I realized that I did not have to add more work and add more to my daily activities in order to get what I wanted accomplished. What I needed to do was to work grateful, which meant dealing with what I call the gratitude strategy. And so that meant working on my self talk and making that more positive and filled with gratitude, dealing with saying it loud, which is being practical and making the gratitude tangible, and then also developing the habit of the gratitude, which is saying it always. And so, in doing that, there's a foundation of discipline that's set up that we use to build in other habits that really help us to get where we need to be. So, gratitude is like that foundation habit. And so, if you're interested in something like that and you want to actually enjoy your journey while you're pursuing your goals and not feel like you're, killing yourself out and burning the candles at both ends and in the middle, then you can check out my YouTube channel, Getting It Done with Gratitude. I do a live there every week as well. And you can check me on LinkedIn, send me a message, and we can have a chat.
Awesome. Awesome. Cass, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Cass J. Henry. I'm an abundance coach. I work out of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and I offer my services both in person and virtually. As an abundance coach, it's my job to assist my clients in altering their perspective from one of lack to one of abundance. Together, we'll discover the power of tools like affirmations, gratitude, habit creation, mindset work, goal setting, experimentation, and journaling, just to name a few, with an overarching goal to achieve a more harmonious balance in life. So if you find yourself stuck and you're focusing on everything that's going wrong in your world right now, reach out. Let's do a discovery call and see if we're a good fit. I'd love the opportunity to show you the abundance that's in your own life right now. You can find me on cassjhenry.com, and I just got to say I'm really excited about today's topic because it fits right in my wheelhouse. So, Steve, I'll pass it back to you.
Okay. Well, hello. My name is Steve, and I'm known by many online as the WordPress Wizard and the Coach's Coach. I'm a multi-niched coaching practitioner, a published author, a digital content creator, an online presence consultant, a business success guide, and a personal development mentor. I work in a broad spectrum of areas with coaches and other professionals who want to start or expand their online presence. I help them get unstuck in their personal and business lives so they can move forward on their own journey of success. I see success as a journey, not a destination, and I'll work with clients, helping them, discover the right path and make it happen. I earn my entire income online, helping others do the same. And you can find me at stephenbhenry.com. Feel free to contact me at any time. There is a contact page on my site. And as I often say, the time to hire your guide is before you get lost in the woods. And with that, we're going to jump into the topic, letting go. So, Cass, you were excited about the topic. Jump in and let's get started.
Yeah, so when I talk about lack and abundance, when we live in a mindset of lack, we often see things as having been taken from us or done against us. It's a scarcity mindset. It's if that person takes it, then there isn't enough for me, that idea. Whereas in contrast, when we live in abundance, we know that there's plenty in this world for all of us. We can feel joy in others' wins, and we can know that our wins are happening too. We don't feel slighted when someone makes a misstep, right? So instead of being super angry about something, we can get curious about our feelings, and we can learn to let go of those emotions that are tied to this event and open ourselves up to the next new opportunity. So letting go leaves room for growth. It's this willingness to let go, to move on. Yeah, and I really think that that's a big part of bringing abundance into your life is being able to cast off the weights that are pulling you down into lack.
Yeah, another word that is often used interchangeably with the concept of letting go is releasing. And I've found that there is a culture generally of, I don't want to say being vindictive or it's probably holding on to grudges. There's this attitude that if somebody wrongs you, you have to hold on to that and, find a way to make them pay or keep them in mind, because if you don't, then you're letting them off the hook, so to speak. And that reminds me, there's a saying, we use it in Trinidad. I don't know if it's used all over the world as well, but we say you are taking medicine for someone else's ailment. So that's a sanitized version, of course. The way we say it, I'll probably have to explain it away anyway. But that's the way we talk about it. So, you're taking medicine for someone else's ailment. So when we hold on to things, we feel vindicated because we're keeping this person in mind. We remember the wrong that they did, or we remember the wrong that happened to us. But then who is actually being harmed or, bothered by holding on to this thing? Quite often it's not the other person. Quite often we are the ones who are reaping the ill effects of holding on and focusing on this negativity that happened. And so when it comes to letting go, I think it's a big deal for many people because it's akin to forgiveness, and we often misunderstand what that means, to let go and to forgive someone else. We think it's like, not holding them accountable or letting them get away with whatever they did. And so that's why just the mere idea of letting go, people feel that, I feel better when I hold on to this. And so they don't want to.
Yeah.
And that's something
Yeah,
that I think is a real issue. Yeah.
It's interesting that you use the word releasing, because I've got that in my notes as well. And the whole concept of letting go is a release. And I know that's just kind of juxtaposing some words here, but but letting go sounds like kind of a tactical thing where you let it go, but releasing from within is the hard part of it. And you talked about forgiveness, and I think that the nature of this is that we need to forgive ourselves. That's how we let go of outcomes, and sometimes it involves surrendering the control over issues. We often want to be in control of what's going on, which means ourselves and others. And we sometimes have to, release and surrender that control in order to forgive ourselves and the situation. Those two that we often forget about when we're thinking about the other person and their involvement in things. And what we have to do also to let go is we have to embrace, seems like, counter positioning, but we have to embrace acceptance and change. We have to accept that we're letting go. We have to accept that things may be different. And as we see the change that occurs when we do it, we have to accept that. That's a pretty powerful step in terms of personal development that each of us, struggles with.
Change is inevitable, right? Things will happen that will throw us off our course and lead us away from our path. So learning to let go of our attachment to these emotions instead choosing abundance mindset will allow us to give grace to those around us and ourselves. So one of the things that happens when you start working from a mindset of abundance is that you realize just how much choice you actually have, right? Because you get to choose how you see the world. And you can't always choose the things that happen, right? Because that's the change. Things are going to happen around you and to you and through you. But you can choose how you react to them, and you can learn to let go of what doesn't serve you anymore, what doesn't work for you.
And I'm thinking that, with the clients that I work with, and in my intro, I spoke about not adding things to our plate when we are, moving toward our goals. We think that we need to do more. Sometimes we need to do less. And so when many people think about, personal development and becoming a better person and all these things, they often think about what more do I need to do? And so they ask themselves the question, what do I need to do to get where I want to be? But I think that the question they really should be thinking about is, what do I need to let go of to be where I need to be? Because chances are they're not going to be able to increase or receive anything if they are holding on to things that are consistently and effectively blocking them from being where they want to be. So it's kind of like, practically, if your fist is like this, you can't really hold too much. You have to release and be open to actually getting something in your hand. And even when that thing comes in your hand, if you do that, then there's no more that could go in. You have to release in order to have that. And so that's the way I visualize it in terms of letting go. What is it that I'm holding on to so tightly that is stopping me from enjoying my life as I pursue my goals? What is that belief? What is that practice? What is that idea that I'm holding on to so tightly? So, yeah, the real question is, what are you willing to let go of to get to where you need to be?
Absolutely. Um, I see that as a process of identifying the areas for letting go, which is where we often fail. We think about the action. In this case, we're talking about letting go, but we don't look at the application. So, a call to action is good, but then we need to have the strategies, methodologies, and so on to apply it. And when I'm working with clients, I often, get them to reflect on the areas in their lives where they may be holding on to things that we've talked about, past wrongs, past hurts, limiting beliefs, unhealthy habits. We've got those, and we don't realize that we're gripping onto them, we're holding onto them. They become our comfort zone, even when they're difficult things. I've seen some situations where a person is in a relationship and it's abusive, but they keep going back, and you sort of say, well, why do they do that? It's because they won't let go of the things that have an appearance of being comfortable within that, and it's tough to let go. So I see it as a way, as an opportunity to guide my clients into recognizing the whole, the holistic uh, effect, the emotional, the mental, the physical, which is clutter. We get so many things built in. We get habits that we needed, they were good, but now they're clutter. They're taking up space and effort without, allowing us to do other things. So we got to clear out that clutter, just as you might clear out clean up a garage that's built up with things. And this clutter is hindering our progress and our well-being, both aspects of it. And we need to clean it up. That's where identifying those areas, things we need to let go.
Yeah, and you mentioned habits, and one of the things with acquiring new habits is quite often releasing the habits that we already have. And that's something that many people don't think about. So, we want to maybe be more prosperous, we want to earn more money, we want to get better sleep, we want to do so many different things, and we think we have to add. So, what can I do differently? So, I'm reading all these books about, what other people did and what worked for other people, and I want to adapt and adopt all of these things. But what is it that I am doing that's not working for me? So, I want to get up at 6 every morning because when I'm up at that time, I feel more productive and I'm happier, but I'm going to bed at 2 a.m. and then I still want to get up at 6. Or, I want to drink more water, but I don't have any containers that I can take around with me. And then I have these worries about, okay, if I drink the water and I go out, then I'm going to have to find a public restroom, and we come up with all of these blocks and ideas that we hold on to that interrupt and interfere with the adoption of the new habit. And then we say, well, okay, I tried that and it didn't work. But were you also thinking about the things that were holding you back? The things that you are currently doing that could be impeding what you want to adopt? And so we have to put some systems in place, but do we know what we want to put in place? All of this is part of, habit development. We have to take that holistic look at what exists right now. What is it that is happening? What am I doing? What am I holding on to? And then from that, we can look at, okay, what do I want to do instead? And so, quite a lot of the time, when we talk about adopting a new habit, it's more of a replacement than something completely new being adopted. We usually have to replace what we're currently doing with a new, more productive habit. And that's how it works. So the idea of letting go is something that I find quite interesting because in the culture in general in Trinidad and Tobago, we sort of reverence people who hold grudges, and we make jokes about it. And I'm that person, and you did something to me last year, I remember every detail, don't come by me again. And so we have this sort of cultural attitude toward um you know being vindictive, and we laugh it off because, well, Trinidadians laugh at everything, but in general we think it's a revered quality because it shows that you are being, you're standing up for yourself, and you are not taking anything from anybody, you're letting them know. And there's this sort of really energized view of holding on to things that could probably not be serving us. And so it's something that I really think about all the time. I'm one of the ones who over time, and I'm saying over time because I also used to hold on to things. And in some cases I'm still holding on to things, a little bit at a time. So I'm releasing them, one finger at a time, right? So we have a little bit going here. But it takes some energy and it takes some effort. And for one thing, I've had to actually engage coaches and therapists to reach to the point where I could even consider letting it go, because I realize how it's impacting on me and my life and my actions. On my own, it wasn't so easy to see. And so I think one aspect of letting things go is being open to listening to what someone else has to tell us, someone from the outside. Because quite often when we're on the inside, we don't even realize that we're holding on to these things.
One of the things that you made me think of when you were talking about habits forming is the idea of friction, right? That
Yeah.
we want to reduce the friction between us and our goals. And so sometimes that means, well, it depends on what you're trying to do. Sometimes that means adding friction, and sometimes it means reducing friction. So, that idea of whether you need to let things go or add things on when you're trying to create habits. So would
Yeah.
if your idea of having a container for your water, that's reducing your friction so that you can have water present with you whenever you need to have it. And the other thing that you got me thinking about is looking at the way that we see ourselves and the stories we tell about ourselves. That's a big part of the puzzle. So when we see ourselves as lacking, it's difficult to enter into that abundance mindset, and it's really easy to feel like a victim in our own lives. And one of my favorite Maya Angelou quotes is, "My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style." So, without learning to let go of what pulls us down, what keeps us in that survival mode, we can't move forward and upwards. My therapist talks about how when an animal is being chased, like say a gazelle is being chased by a lion and it manages to get away, the gazelle will shake its whole body, and you've seen like cats or dogs do that, where they just sort of shake, and that's the gazelle acknowledging and processing that it's no longer in danger, that it's no longer in that survival mode, and it can move on. And so if I was more of a Swiftie, I might have a better shake it off kind of Taylor analogy here. But that's the idea. Your body needs to move and process, and that's how you get into that thrive position, is to let go of that survival mode that you may have been in when a wrong was done to you, when you felt like a victim.
Yeah, that's where I mentioned about the holistic aspect of it, that it isn't just mental, it's also physical and situational, and we need to look at all of those aspects of it. Just one thought that crossed my mind, Shelley Ann, when you were talking about having this approach of pushing people away, and I've learned, I actually probably got it from my father, but I've learned it in my own life as I get older. You can't push everybody away, because in the end you're going to need 6 friends. So keep that in mind. The other thing that you mentioned was having systems, having a system. And I agree fully that systems are very important. And something that I often talk about that relates directly to systems and to letting go is we need to have the strategies and the techniques, what I would call the process for letting go. We should develop that and have that within our toolkits, so that when things happen that build up and overwhelm us. I mean, one of the big problems with overwhelm is that we won't let go. And so, it eats at us constantly. We need to develop those techniques. And there's a lot of practices. Letting go isn't just the thing, and it's not on its own. Just as all of the things we've discussed in these sessions over the many weeks, they tie in together. And letting go, involves mindfulness practices, journaling, forgiveness exercises. There's so many things that we do that relate to other aspects, but that can happen within letting go. My own Morning Pages book that I wrote, based on The Artist's Way, which is an interesting read in itself, but my book kind of distills it down. And by the way, I'll make a copy of that available for free for anybody who's listening to this who wants to ask for one. I won't charge anything for it. I won't even take your email address. I'll give you a link where you can just download it. But I believe there always has to be give and take, and there has to be skin in the game. So you have to reach out and ask me for it, and then I'll give you one. But there's importance, a great deal of importance in self-compassion, patience, resilience. These are all keywords that relate to what we have to do with ourselves, whom we have to be in order to be able to let go. We've got to navigate the ups and downs, the hills and valleys that are created by any process, but especially the letting go process.
And while both of you were speaking, it occurred to me that I think we need to um, double back a little bit and explain and discuss why people feel like they should not let go,
Mm.
and what is it that's holding people back from letting go. Now, I mentioned the one aspect of it, which is, somehow there's this belief that holding on to this thing is going to vindicate us and make us, we're in the right, and so whatever happened to us was wrong and we're right, so we need to hold on to it. If we let it go, it might seem as if we're agreeing that we're wrong and we're not wrong, we're right, and so we hold on to it for that purpose. But something you said, Cass, really sort of connected with me, that it's really from when we're operating from that scarcity mindset. That's another reason we don't let things go, because we think if we let it go, then um, there's nothing that we can replace it with, or there's no way to fill the need. So we have to hold on to these things. In your reading and so on. So those are the two that really kind of stand out to me. Um, can you guys think of any, or did you come across any other reasons why someone might be holding on to something?
Well, one of those things is that, like, letting go means that you are releasing the memory or releasing the thing that happened. Um,
Hmm.
Away from yourself. But it's okay to hold on to the memories. It's okay to hold on to the people and still let go of the energy that holds you to that event. Right? So, like, you're not erasing by releasing. You're
Hmm.
just removing the power that it has over you in that moment. So sometimes I think people don't recognize that's separate, that it's okay to still remember those things.
Yeah.
And that
It-
brings up a good point. When we're talking about letting go, it's not just letting go things that we consider negative. Sometimes we're holding on to things that we consider positive that were for a time. And now we're moving on, we're leveling up, we're growing, we're becoming, and we're still stuck in the past because we're holding on to things that used to be, that probably no longer, represent where we want to be, continue in our growing.
yeah,
I found a Go
it's
ahead, Steve.
amazing how many things that you accumulate around you in your life that you feel the need to hold on to because they're good things. Um, my aunt, used to, she was one of these women that was hooked on fashion and brand names and so on. And she would buy a new dress for every event she would go to. And my mother, her sister, often had to wear the same dress because as at that time in our lives we just didn't have the resources for her to be able to buy a new dress for every event. So she would pick out one of the dresses that maybe she hadn't worn to that group of people where the event was or whatever, and hope nobody was there that had seen her before. And she, you know you get caught up in this attitude. And I remember once my aunt was complaining. We were visiting and we were going out somewhere together, and she was getting ready and she was complaining to her husband that she had nothing to wear. And she had this huge closet just stacked with dresses. And it it didn't connect with me. I mean, I was a kid, and but I heard it and I knew it, and I was kind of thinking like, what the heck? She's got everything possible. She should wear something, and just pick one. And I didn't understand the psyche of that as a kid and a guy. But later on, I had a mentor that put it in perspective without him ever knowing that story. Um, he said, nature abhors a vacuum. And it's true. In the physical world, whenever you create a vacuum, nature does whatever it can to fill it. And that actually works in your life and your experiences. If she had taken that closet full of clothes and taken them all out and given them away to Salvation Army or somewhere, um, that closet would have been empty, and it would have the process of buying more dresses to fill up the closet again would happen in spite of what she was thinking or doing, because there was this empty closet. Clean out a drawer. Go to your kitchen and clean out a drawer and say, I'm going to keep that drawer empty. See how long. Yeah, go give it a try. We can get rid of things, get rid of feelings, get rid of attitudes that we think are good but are just filling up the closet. Can't give those away to Salvation Army because those were expensive dresses. I have to keep them. No, you've got to make room in your life, room in your experience, room in your mind for all of these wonderful things that nature is just waiting to give to you. We talk about abundance. We talk about the law of attraction. Doesn't work for me. It's just not happening. Well, maybe you haven't cleared a space for it to work. Maybe you haven't let go of the things you no longer need, no matter how good they are. Give them away, make space, let go, and watch what comes. There's a positive side. There's a yin yang here that is often misunderstood.
Yeah, and
I
one of the
came
things, oh,
across a meme. I guess is what you would call it. It's just a little snip of a quote by Bianca Sparacino. I'm not sure of the name, but that's what came with it. It took me a long time to realize that not everything in life is meant to be a beautiful story. Not every person we feel something deep and moving with is meant to make a home within us, is meant to be a forever. Sometimes people come into our lives to teach us how to love, and sometimes people come into our lives to teach us how not to love, how not to settle, how not to shrink ourselves ever again. Sometimes people leave, but that's okay because their lessons always stay, and that's what matters. That's what remains. And I think this quote really highlights that when you let go of something, the lessons and the memories, the things that you've learned through this experience, they stay with you. So, you may have cleared that person or that drawer, but what it meant for you and how it worked for you, stays. So it isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about finding peace with it and moving forward. So we can assimilate a lesson without needing to hold on to the pain of that situation.
Yeah, letting
yeah,
go doesn't have to be forgetting. That's the
Right.
key thing about
Yeah.
it. Letting go is not wiping away; it is releasing. It's that's a powerful thing. Yeah, very good
yeah,
quote.
I guess it's the emotional baggage, we can call it, because it gets heavy after a while. And I guess that's why they call it baggage, because when we hold on to things, we're holding on to the emotions of the past, which, like you said, they fill the closet. So then the new experiences and the new stage in the journey has nowhere to put its stuff. And then things get heavy and it feels overwhelming. And like you said earlier, Steve, part of the reason many people feel overwhelmed and stuck is because of their misunderstanding of letting go and the fact that they're not letting go of certain things that they need to in order to move on. It's like having one of those huge ocean liners. Everything is on it that you could possibly need, but it's a ship and it's going out into the sea. but you don't untie it from the dock. You don't pull up the anchor because you're holding on to what was and what used to be, and not considering that the sea might be a little, as Cassie is saying, not everything is going to be smooth sailing. There might be a little high wave here and there, but there's another dock that you're going to stop for a moment that is going to be beautiful and wonderful, but which you also would have to pull up anchor from and keep going in terms of the movement and the growth in life. And it feels to me like, sometimes we don't let go because we think we've arrived and we think this is all there is, without really understanding that the constant growth and development is there. And while this is beautiful, there are other beautiful things that we can experience too. So I'm just really thinking about, sometimes we talk a lot about these things, and I wonder, do the listeners really understand where it's coming from for them and how to move past it? And I guess that's where you would need to reach out to a coach or a therapist or somebody to assist. But those are usually my thoughts. How practical is this going to be in terms of starting a conversation that can be continued in a positive way?
Your analogy of the sailing ship and the cruise liner in your case, but I think of the beautiful sailing ship with the full sails and so on. Um, and then you mentioned reaching out for assistance with a mentor or a coach. Um, these beautiful big sailing ships, the captains knew that they needed assistance to get out of the harbor. They didn't have motors on them to take them out. So the term sail with the tide was common, and that's what they did. They waited for the tide to be going out. First of all, that was at the peak tide. There was more
Mhm.
water in the estuary, or going through the entrance to the port, to the harbor, but it was also moving outwards, so it carried the ship with it. So the captain, with his beautiful sailing ship with all these sails, all self contained, knew he needed the help of the outgoing tide to get him to the ocean and the wind so he could sail. And that's what we need to do is have these sort of things. So I think if we keep in mind the idea of sail with the tide, it helps us. But none of letting go. We've covered a lot of really interesting aspects of it, but none of letting go means anything unless we embrace the benefits that it provides for us. And the positive impact of letting go really affects that broad spectrum of our experience, the mental, the emotional well-being, our relationships, and our personal fulfillment. And that's what Cass speaks to in terms of the abundance. That's our personal fulfillment, and we gain a freedom and a peace
Yeah.
and an empowerment. I think that's important. We gain empowerment from releasing that attachment to those past grievances, the negative things, to expectations that aren't materializing. Don't let those hold you back either. The self imposed limitations that we often put on ourselves without realizing that they're limitations. We can gain so much by letting go of those things and then accepting and realizing the abundance that's all around us.
Yeah, it feels sometimes like we we want to be and we want to have, but there's part of us that's telling us, well, you can't have because, and you shouldn't have because, and don't think about that too much. Remember what used to be, and all these other things that come up when you were in the right. It's you have a right to feel angry about this, so therefore go ahead and feel angry. But then
Mhm.
how long am I going to feel angry for, and what am I going to do with this anger, and how am I allowing the anger to affect me? Um, we do need to really look at that from time to time. And then when I'm not angry, what do I want to feel instead? That's where the empowerment comes in. So I'm not just letting go of the anger and thinking, okay, now what? It's a matter of, okay, I have a choice now.
I like to always, at least from my perspective, I think that emotions are neither negative or positive, that they just sort of are, and that feeling anger or feeling sadness, that those are just emotions, and so you can let them flow, and then you get to choose what you do with that stuff.
Mhm.
So, is
Mhm.
it righteous anger? Are you going to uh, do some activism because of this anger? Are you going to be creative? Are you going to, jump in a cold lake? Like there's a lot of things that you can do with these emotions that aren't destructive. They can be constructive, and so feeling anger is okay. There's lots of reasons to be okay, and it can feel empowering, and it can be motivating, and it can be the thing that sparks the fire under you, but you don't hold on to that anger. I think I've heard letting go in the idea of like a hot poker, that if somebody, does something and your anger is hot and burning and you hold on to it, then you're just burning yourself. It's
Yeah.
letting it
Mhm.
go, and what are
Yeah.
you going to do with that energy that's been created by the
Yeah.
situation?
Yeah, we often feel that when we have something, it's ours. We don't want to let it go.
Yeah.
And and that applies to physical and emotions, attitudes, mindset. And so we can let it go, which opens the space to fill it with something else, to do something else. How we deal with that will determine how we bring new things into our lives. So the negatives, or even if we don't label them as negative, if we just label them as things, and I'm okay with that, um, those things that we're going to let go of can have a positive outcome, a positive outcome for the experiences in our lives, which build whole new things. And some of those we'll want to let go. We'll evaluate them and we'll want to let them go. Life is a journey. Success is a journey. And as we travel that path, we have all kinds of experiences. We see the car in somebody's driveway that wondering about. We see the cow in the pasture. We, drive along. We see the new store we haven't seen before, and we can go into it. We experience and we explore, and we bring things into our lives. And when we go into the store and we find, oh, that's ridiculously high priced, I wouldn't shop there. No, we leave. We can let go of that negative emotion because it doesn't serve us. Find another store that has the prices that we want and that we can afford. And so we make those changes. Letting go is the opportunity to change. And that's just so powerful.
And so I have a question then. My understanding of letting go is not a one-time action. It's not
Mm.
a thing that you do. It's kind of like a process and a system that you implement and so on. So what does that system look like for you in terms of, so either of you can answer or both, just to give an idea of, what do you see letting go as? What does it look like?
It's definitely a process. And for me, it often involves journaling, and it involves talking with people about what's happened and how I feel about it. It can involve out of sight, out of mind, that kind of idea, depending on what it is, where I need some physical distance between what happened or the person. Um, and acknowledging that it's for me, that I'm not letting go for the other person. I'm not
Mm.
um I'm not in control of anything that they do, so they may never apologize. It has nothing to do with that. That's where that forgiving comes from within, and this is my energy that I'm working with. And so letting go of attachment to this situation. Does
Yeah.
that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And I wanna hear from Steve, and then something that you said, and one of the reasons I asked the question, I'll explain in a bit.
Well, I'm a big advocate of visualization. In all of my coaching work, working with clients, the first place I start is visualization. I have a program called Success in a Year, and it's 12 months of processes that we take the client through that get them from where they are to where they need to be in 12 months. And the first month of that is about visualization. It's so important. And when we talk about letting go, the key is to help the client envision a future that is free from those burdens that the things that we need to let go, the burdens of the past, the burdens of attitude, of things that are holding us back. And so the visualization focuses and allows us to be guided by things like clarity and purpose and authenticity, being our authentic self. And so I encourage clients, and I encourage anybody listening to this, to set intentions. We often talk about goals, and goals are good, but you need to set intentions more, as much as goals. That's a process of bringing goals into visualization. You need to cultivate gratitude. Shelly Ann, you're a gratitude coach, and having met you and been talking about that, it has really expanded my understanding of gratitude and my own feelings of gratitude. But I've always talked about gratitude in various ways that we need to cultivate it. And it's like a garden, you plant the seeds and you take care of them, water them, and then, they grow. And that's where habits come from. And then we need to take action, and I call it inspired action. We need to be inspired by all of these steps of visualization and applying authenticity and so on, having clarity, and that inspires our action. A goal without action is just a dream. That's a meme that you may have heard before, but it's so true. Setting goals is meaningless if you don't take action, if you don't set the strategies that you're going to use to move forward to those goals. And that's why so many New Year's resolutions fail, because people don't take action, and 30 days later they've forgotten what they are. So you need
Yeah.
to take inspired action towards the manifestation of your desired outcomes. That's it, to me, critical. And in order to do that freely, you need to let go of what Shelley Ann called the baggage. I think that's the best name for it. I hadn't thought of it as baggage, but that's absolutely what it is. It's excess baggage, and you need to let go of it.
Hmm. And so the reason I asked the question is that, it when it comes to personal development and the self-help industry, sometimes we get these prescriptions that say do this and do that, and we can get caught up in trying to implement somebody else's version of letting go. And while certain practices can work across the board, they work best when we make them our own. And that's the reason I asked the question, because I wanted to find out, okay, what does it look like for different people, so that listeners can really understand that what I do for me to let go is not necessarily what's going to work step by step in the exact way for you to let go. And what you're letting go of might not be what I need to let go of. And so each person is unique. And something you mentioned, Cass, you said in your response, depending on the situation. So not only is the person unique, the situation itself might require something different depending on what it is you're letting go of, and how you would choose to let go of that would make sense to you. And for me, I keep coming back to those kinds of things because early on in my life, I had this notion that everything was the same for everybody. I'm not sure where it came from, but when I learned that people didn't like the same foods that I liked, I was shocked. How could you not like that? You know? And when I learned that people liked things that I didn't like, I'm like, how could you? Why would you like that? And it was always such a shock to me to learn that people were different and that
Well,
it's okay to be different.
yeah, but not only that, even people who like the same foods may like
Mm.
them prepared in a different way. So,
Yeah.
it's important that we understand the nuances of it. Um,
Hmm.
and, I refer to myself as a guide and a mentor rather than a coach. I am a coach, and I use that word for familiarity. But when I'm really talking about what I do and who I am, the words guide and mentor are more common and more prevalent in what I say. Cass uses the term scaffold rather than support. And she's really speaking to the same thing. And I've heard you, Shelley, and talk about those things also in a different way. But regardless of that, there are some truisms. There are things that are just factually true. They are the foundations of what we do as coaches, to use the broader term. And they don't necessarily change. Different people, different clients, I have to look at it from that perspective. Different clients may need a different mix of those truisms. They may not
Yeah.
need all of them. They seldom do. They, the job of the coach is to find out where their pain points are, what their problems are, and then provide that guidance, that scaffolding, that help that we're giving to them, not dictating to them and not having a predetermined plan, one size fits all, but we have to do our homework. We have to learn our craft. As successful coaches, as good coaches, we have certain obligations. And that's where the market is being flooded with coaches these days. It's people think, well, I know how to help people, so I'm going to be a coach. That's admirable, but you have to learn your craft. There are things that apply, specific things that apply, and if you don't learn them, you're cheating yourself, but you're also cheating your clients. So speaking to coaches here, not just people looking for a coach, coaches have an obligation to understand and learn in order to be able to deliver, and that's pretty critical. Um, and so these things that we talk about need to be our obligation. Once we learn our craft and we learn about these various things, then we need to look at our client. When we get a new client, we need to work with them, and it's our obligation to understand them, to ask the right questions. There are a series of questions that we can ask that will elicit the right answers so we can understand them. We can understand their mindset, their current mindset. We can understand their desires. It isn't our job to say, oh, this is success. This is what success means, and I'll get you there. That's not what our job
Yeah.
is at all. We need to understand their desires. Now, we can suggest alternatives or additions to what they're seeing because they might not be seeing the whole picture. I've shared the story of my mentor who mailed me postcards from all over the world, beautiful postcards, beautiful, tropical places and Mount Everest and things all over the world, all different climes, and a corner torn off the picture. And what he said on the back was, "You're still not getting the whole picture." And it took a while for that to sink into me. I got more than a dozen postcards before I understood what it meant. And we need to understand that our clients may not have the whole picture, but we can't fill it in for them. We can't draw the rest of that picture. They have to come to an understanding of what the rest of that picture is. It may take a while, but that's our job. That's what we choose to do as good coaches. And I think that is, letting go is one aspect of that. Sometimes they don't see the whole picture because they won't let go of the part that they see. And as Cass said about not having to forget, or, it's gone, the memories are gone, you can still understand the part that you already see, but you need to let go of the attitude or the idea that that's the whole picture. So letting go doesn't mean giving up the piece of the picture, but when you understand, when you let go of the feeling that it is the whole picture and you now realize there's more to be seen, that opens your eyes. And was it Dr. Wayne Dyer who said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at
Yeah.
change. Letting go is a great way to change. Sorry, I monopolized that.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in when you talked about truisms. One of the truisms that I think across the board is really important, and especially with letting go, is to just be gentle with yourself. It's not easy. A lot of these things that we talk about, they're not easy. They take time, they take effort, they take energy, they take trying and trying and trying again. So just be gentle with yourself, because you're the only one who can be, because you're the only one who can be hard on yourself. And you get to choose, are you going to be hard on yourself or are you going to be gentle?
We often talk about self-care, but there's
Oh, yeah.
another phrase that I like, self-compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Little different focus, but that's what you're saying, Cass, and I love that. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, and another one of the truisms for me, and I think every time you say that, Cass, this comes up for me, you don't have to do it alone. And I think that is something that, because of my own past, thinking that I had to do it alone and eventually realizing that I didn't, and getting the help and the support that I needed, being open to asking for the help, and then also being open to receiving the help, that's another aspect of it. So compassionate with yourself. I call it grace, giving yourself grace. And definitely, you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to have all the answers. So while you are the one who gets to choose, you can get some advice, you can get some guidance, you can get some options. Someone who's on the outside seeing a different part of the picture can, help you recognize that, hey, there's another perspective. And so there are different ways that you can go about it. So when it comes to letting go, for me, part of that is definitely grace towards self, um, being open to other conversations, as well as, Cass, you mentioned, journaling. I believe in writing things down as well. For me, I do it in the morning. For other people, they do it before they go to bed. And so while we're both focused on gratitude and, writing these things down, the time at which we do it might differ. I could swear by the morning, first thing as I get up. Somebody else swears by last thing before they go to bed, because it's on their mind while they sleep, and therefore they wake up in a different way. And so there are different approaches to the same thing. And one of the things that I had to learn as well was that with each of these different approaches comes a different timeline. And whichever approach that I choose, it's okay. This is the timeline for this one. This is what I'm comfortable with, and I'm good. So I'm not trying to get the instant click with a process that takes time, because I recognize that it's going to take some time. And I know if I take this road over here, it'll take me, like I've been Google Maps directions things a lot recently. And when you go into Google Maps and you put in your starting point and you put in your destination, and I think Waze does it as well, and there are lots of other apps, they give you alternate routes. Many times they give you alternate routes. And this one, if you go this way, this will take you 45 minutes. This other one will take you an hour and a half. This one here will take you 26 minutes if you do these things. And so there are options and you can choose. And if I choose to take the hour and a half route, I'm still getting to my destination. Maybe I like that side of town to see the cows, right? So
Absolutely.
um somebody else might choose to take the 26-minute one. And that's their choice and it's okay.
That's because the destination is more important. And again, bringing that back to the idea of letting go, we sometimes have to let go of the idea that we can do it all. We have to, understand that there is help out there and it's there, which brings us to the statement I used in my introduction. The time to hire your guide is before you get lost in the woods. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask.
Letting go is leaving room for growth.
Absolutely.
I think that's a really good place to end. I'm going to suggest, have we actually touched on self-care or self-compassion as a topic?
I don't believe we have.
I think we have. Does that work for us for next week?
Absolutely.
Yes. If I have a list, I'll double check because I've been making a list of the episodes to double check. But I think even if we did, it's worth checking in again because it's a huge conversation.
It is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All of our topics are worth checking in again, simply so we can reference other topics that we've covered since we covered that before. That's great. But we are over time here by almost 2 minutes. What a session, guys. Thank you so much. I had no idea where this was going to go. This is one that I wasn't as prepared for as I would like to have been. And folks, if you're listening to this now or you're listening to it in the replay, this is one worth listening to. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.